Super excited to announce a new partner that I'm working with, Meat Locker Official. They are a meat company. They ship all kinds of meat. Go check out their website, meatlocker.com. It's amazing. Man, let me tell you, the bacon. The bacon's the best bacon I've ever had in my life. All the other meats are very good. I had a nice ribeye the other day, chicken breast, all kinds of stuff. The steaks and the bacon, though, for sure the best bacon I've ever had in my life. Meatlocker.com. Type in the code name Easton 2019. EASTON 2019, and you will receive 15% off of your order. Again, meatlocker.com. Get some bacon. Evo Labs products. Man, I love a couple of Evo Labs products that I like to use. I like to use their skin repair and intensive salve. Man, the skin repair is amazing for when I get like these little abrasions on my skin, and you're always worried about like whether you're going to get an infection or not, or how it's going to heal. Skin repair, Evo Labs skin repair. Go check them out, evolabs.com. And then 2, their intensive salve. Okay. Again, this is for like a little bit of soreness after I train at the end of the day. Rub it all over, like especially like my upper back and my arms, then my legs. Love it. Again, evolabs.com. I do also like their Meditate. It's a CBD pen where, at the end of the night, it helps me calm down, go to sleep, especially after like intense training during the day. So those 3 products are 3 of my favorite products from Evo Labs. 1, the skin repair, 2, the intense salve, and 3, the CBD pen. The Gospel Fire also brought to you by Onnit, ONNIT. Go to their website and man, go check out their products. Code name is Eliot. You put in Eliot, ELIOT, and you will get 10% off all of your Onnit products. I personally like the Alpha Brain. That is my favorite product, and every once in a while I like to use their Shroom Tech as well. So those 2 products are my favorite from Onnit. So again, Evo Labs guys at evolabs.com and Onnit, ONNIT. Check them out. Thanks for the support of the podcast from those guys, and hell yeah, let's get after it. Hey guys, this is former UFC fighter Eliot Marshall, and this is the Gospel of Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn how to live the best life possible. All right, guys, here we are, another episode of the Gospel of Fire, and I've been on this little streak lately, a little bit of, I guess not totally, but talking to some people that I know, like the last one with Lauren Landau, and then talking to some people that like I've only met for like a second, like right before we were about to have this really intense moment together, and not fighting each other, but just like pacing around nervously right in the back room of some stupid arena. And so today I have Clifford Starks. What's up, man? How are you, Clifford?
I'm good, Eliot. How about yourself?
I'm good. I think that's the first time we met, right? I think it was UFC 237. We were both fighting.
Yes.
And you just have these really awkward looks with each other, right? Where you're like, all right, we're about to go do this thing. Why the fuck are we even doing this thing?
Pretty much. That's about right.
Mm-hmm. And for me, man, for me, that one, I was scared as fuck that fight. Like I was not in a good place for that fight. It ended up being my last fight. But yeah, so where were you in that fight? Like who did you fight, and where, like what point of your career were you at there?
I was fighting Ed Herman.
Okay.
Yeah, and
he just fought, right? He just knocked somebody out on Saturday, didn't he? I think so. I think so. I think he knocked out Pat Cummins.
He goes on little tears. Yeah. He does have little tears, and he has moments when he's on and when he's off. And when he's on, he has a nice little streak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt good for the fight. I felt ready to go. But he ended up submitting me in the second round, which sucks because he was out on his feet the first round.
Yes, I remember that. He was barely conscious. Yeah,
he was
barely conscious.
If I would have just backed off. Yeah, if I would have backed off in the second round, I pushed him up against the cage, and I made one little error, and he caught me with it.
Yeah. Fucking fighting.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Fucking fighting. I mean, I actually just recently made a video. I'm gonna post it on my YouTube channel. I made it this morning, and it's about mindset and grit, and how just having grit will take you through any challenge that is put in front of you.
It's really interesting, right? Because there's some guy like. I mean, let's just talk about Ed. I think Ed and I are buddies, you know? You wouldn't say he's this like ridiculously skilled guy. He's not Anderson. He's not like, he's not Max Holloway. He's not Stylebender or John Jones.
No.
The motherfucker just has grit, right?
Yeah, that's it.
He just has grit. It's just dirty.
And I mean, it's the most dangerous thing any human being can have. When they have that grit, get ready for a long night, because you can't make mistakes. I felt great the entire fight. I was catching him with every punch I was throwing, and I felt good in there. You know, like, I think even getting at the UFC level, everybody has grit to them.
Yes.
You know, that it's not a question of that anymore, because just to get to that level, you have to have grit just to get on that stage.
For sure. For sure. No, people, you know.
And so, yeah. And so sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And he had my number. You know, I felt great the entire fight, and I made that single mistake. He didn't give up.
You know, it's not, sometimes it, like, when they're out on their feet like that, it's not even like, I don't even think they know that they're not giving up sometimes, right? Like, it's just like your body's just going. You're like, oh yeah. You know, I mean, I tell this funny story sometimes, like, I can remember I got hit once really, really hard in a fight. And like the next thing I knew, like my next realization was that I was like peeing a little bit down my leg, and like none of it like dripped on the floor, right? It wasn't like a full on like piss, but you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm pissing. And you're like, oh, why am I pissing? Oh shit, I just got cracked, and like I have no motor control. All right, maybe I should like squeeze that off for a second. You know,
there's something crazy about fighting. It goes to a new level. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, you like, no, we wouldn't pee ourselves on purpose, right? Like, that doesn't. You know? And I've talked to Rashad about this. Rashad's had the same experience. You know, where you're just like, oh shit, really? This is what's happening right now. All right, man. I hope there's not. You know, so I mean. So yeah, like, so sometimes when there's like in a fight, like I don't even know if we know what it is we're doing, but we're doing. You know, we're for sure doing something.
I mean, it really is the you know how they tell you to just take action, and sometimes people don't know how to take action. I mean, fighting's a whole new animal, because you do have to take action, but you have to sit and wait. Just like when we met, there is no just take action. We want to go fight right away.
Please just call my name. Let me walk to the arena. And call my name.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And you have to wait. You have to sit in all of that.
It's a week of that, though. There's nothing to fucking do all week.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They bring you out on Tuesday, and you just sit there. Like that. I think that's sometimes almost what makes, like, people talk about, like, the UFC jitters and stuff. Because, like, when you come up fighting on the local shows, especially when we were coming up fighting on the local shows, you just showed up at the local arena the day of the fight.
Yes.
And that, like, but you were sleeping in your own bed and doing normal stuff like all week.
Yeah.
But when you get to the big show, man, like, it's Tuesday and they make you go to a hotel. And like, look, we're not complaining, but we're just talking about like how this takes some getting used to. They make you go to this hotel, and then you sit there in the hotel for a week, you know, and you don't really have much to do.
Yeah. It's true,
and it's rough.
I mean, it's one of the greatest things I've ever had, because, especially for the profession that I do, I'm a mindset coach, and being able to really get into people's heads and get them to take the necessary actions that they need to do. Well, I know the epitome of that, because as a fighter, you have to do the sit and wait game and then go out and fight.
You just have to wait for that moment to come.
And all the voices in your head, all of the voices in your head come out.
So you said you're a mindset coach. So that's what you did after fighting? It was like, so take me on your journey. So after, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of doing it before I was fighting. And just to maintain the bills, like it's hard, as you know, to let fighting alone be your main source of income, because you're never quite sure when you're going to fight unless you're in a big organization like UFC or signed with Bellator. And even with Bellator, sometimes you don't even know when you're going to fight. Like UFC they keep you pretty active.
Right.
But yeah, I've been doing it for about 17 years now, and I've been a fighter, I was a fighter because I retired, for 8 years, 8 of those years. And it added a new layer to my coaching style, because as a fighter, like all of those voices are just coming up, like your strong voices, your weak voices, your voices that say you can do this, you can do anything, your voices that say what are we doing, you're a nut. And you have to go in regardless of what the voices are saying, and you have to train, and you have to get ready to fight your heart out. You got to fight your ass off, and may the best man win, because as a fighter, no one goes in wanting to lose a fight. You know, obviously everyone wants to win, but there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And you're putting in 2-3 month camps.
50% of the people go home really upset, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Really upset.
And it's like you're putting in 100%. Like you're going all in. You're not kind of trying. You're trying at 100. And sometimes it's not your night. You know, you don't get your hand raised. So you go back to the drawing board and you have to do it again. And that's what I love about fighting so much is it's that mindset of, yeah, this is how powerful I am. This is what I can do, and I can always get better. And it's a constant test of who you are as a person. Like it's a tester. Would you agree with that?
Man, so for me, man, fighting just taught me how to fight when it really matters. Because
yes.
You know, I mean, one of the things that Chael Sonnen said once, and he was talking about it from a different perspective. He was talking, like, somebody asked him a religious question about fighting, you know, like, why don't you like thank God and Jesus after a fight or something? He's like, man, if I thought that God actually cared about a barely legal street fight on Saturday night, then I would have to find a new God. So for you know, for me, it's the same. It's a similar thing. Like, man, if this barely legal street fight is like the end all be all here, then what the fuck? What is this lesson for me? Like, what is this teaching me how to do? And it's teaching me how just to fight, you know, because this is what you're gonna like. It's just, I mean, I know it's super cliche, but goddamn, life gets fucking difficult. And if you don't know how to fight, if you wilt, you know, if you have a wilting spirit, then you will wilt in your life, and then you'll get stuck in whatever bullshit you get stuck in, you know?
That's so true. No, I mean, that's a really good point, where you kind of get to see where you're at and what kind of person you are. You get to look in the mirror.
And it's a judge all the time, because when the cage door locks, there's no lying. There's no fucking lying, right? It's you, another dude, and a referee. There's no lying about the character. And sometimes the character is one thing the one time, and then, you know, 6 months later, wherever you are in your life, it's something different, and like something comes up, and your cowardice shows, or your grit shows, but you have to earn it like each time. It's not like, oh, it was this way one time, so it's going to be this way the next time. And I think a lot of times in our lives, that's what we get into. It's like, oh, I'll always be this. And no, you won't. You know, you won't. Sometimes you will show up and you are a beast, and sometimes you will show up and you are a bitch, and you have to beat the bitch out of you. You know, you have to.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That's I kind of got that lesson in high school. It was funny. But did you play any football too, Eliot?
No, man. I played basketball in high school. I was a fat kid, man. I wasn't the most, like, all of my athletic prowess for me was very earned. It was like I had to just work, man. I had to fucking work, because I'm not athletic.
I love it. No, I love it, because that's what, like, when I was a fat kid myself. I ended up getting the weight off, but this was my sophomore year. I was playing football and I was on the D line, and I'm playing across this guy who's like 5'4" and 165 pounds. And I'm 5'10", 220 pounds at the time, like 220, 225. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I'm going to crush this little guy. Like, what's he going to bring? Mm-hmm. And Eliot, he brought it that night. Like, he's probably the hardest guard that I've ever gone against in my high school prowess. And so it shows, like, size doesn't matter. Like they talk about, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog.
Right.
And I 100% agree with that. When you got that kind of grit, and all I thought after that night was, I want that and I want to maintain that. Because you got to push to these pain thresholds, and through the pain thresholds, people, for some strange reason, they think it's this magical thing that some people are born with and other people aren't. And that's just not true. It's something you have to train yourself to do, and you train it consistently.
I think some people, just like everything else, have a higher capacity for it, right? Like,
absolutely.
Some people,
just like some people run faster.
Right,
some people can run faster. Some people can jump higher by nature. Like, they're just genetically more gifted. But I think everyone can have high levels of it.
Oh yeah. So, but yes, I agree with you. So this is way more trainable. Like, I am never going to be able to run like Usain Bolt. Not fucking possible, right? Like, I don't have those kind of muscle fibers. I don't know if you do or not, but I doubt it, because if you did, you'd be doing that. But like, right? Yeah. Like and so there's a limit to physical performance. There is zero limit to mental performance. We all, in my opinion, all, in my opinion, can choose to get there. Now, whether we make the choice or not is a different thing. But everyone can reach that top level mental performance.
Yeah. And the one thing I really like about MMA versus, so let's say you take two sprinters, right? The faster guy's just going to win. Like, there's not much else.
Right.
It's not complex. It's not as complex as MMA, because you can be the better wrestler, the better jiu-jitsu guy, the better boxer, the better kickboxer. There's so many variables to it that it kind of helps with the mental aspect. Mm-hmm. Where in fighting or in running, you can be as mentally tough as you want, but if you don't have the speed, you don't have the speed, because it's measuring just one part.
Yeah.
Who's faster?
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about fighting to me. Like, I really think of it as a chess game. It's a game. It's who's tougher, who's faster, who has the better technique, who's trained the longest, who's done the extra sprints that the other guy hasn't done, who's done all of those little things, who's put it together better. And then at a point, man, where no sprinter or runner or football player or any other sport has to think about who's willing to go to the point where they might die. Yeah.
Right. Because you think about that when you fight. I don't know. I mean, most fighters I've talked to say it, like, you have to get a little good with death, because you're aware that is part of this. Like, we are fighting. The 4-letter word of play does not come into what we do. Right. So you have to get good with death. So sometimes who's willing to go say spend a little time with the devil, you know, like that, that can be a big part of it. Right. Where, like, you know, when you're playing a soccer game, man, you're never even fucking thinking about it. Right. You're like, it doesn't cross your mind. It mm-hmm. It does in fighting. Like, for me, I had to get good with like, this could be my last 15 minutes of life, you know? So, and that was always uncomfortable.
Yeah, you know, they have us sign those liability forms, and they're extensive liability forms.
Yeah.
And it talks about that kind of stuff. It talks about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no sprinter signs that, right? No sprinter ever signs that if I die today, you can't, you know? Like, if you die sprinting, fuck, man, you're probably going to sue the shit out of whoever fucking put on that race. But, you know, if you die fighting, fuck, that sucked.
Yeah, yep. Pretty much. It's the craziest thing. Like, so kudos to Cowboy Cerrone for feeling the strength to fight because of his kid. Mine was kind of the opposite route. You know, I went a different route. I got my kid, and it was just like, it wasn't the same. You know, the hunger to provide for my child was there, but I wanted to provide for him in a different way.
Yeah, but let's take a step back. What's your biggest payday?
My biggest payday was $20K.
Yeah, so exactly. Cowboys ain't $20K, bro. If Cowboys' biggest payday was $20K, he couldn't do this with a kid.
That's true.
Right now, kudos to him to getting to getting there, for sure. You know?
Yeah.
But the kid comes, and you have to make some like real big boy decisions. Like, it's not about like Cowboy makes $1 million fucking dollars or $800,000 a fight now. Right? Mm-hmm. And look, I'm taking nothing away from Cowboy. Like, amazing. He deserves every fucking penny, if not more, in my opinion. Right? Like, pay that man his fucking money. But
absolutely.
But like, it's like as far as like to take care of your kid, like, it's fucking easy. Like it's his best route. Right? It's his
that's
for
true.
you. It's not your best route. Yeah. Like, if you fought 5 times for like at $20K, right now. Again, I go over this a lot on the podcast so people understand, right? $20K, when the check says $20,000, let's say you get the $5,000, Reebok money. So the check says $25,000, right? That is about 16 or 17 at the end of the day, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. So if you did that 5 times, then you're looking at 80 grand, and that's not really doing a great job of taking care of your kid.
No, it's not.
But you got to pay taxes on that.
You're right about that.
You know?
Yeah, you're right about that.
So,
that's where it just kind of like it was time to make a decision, and that's the fight world. You know, the fight world it's not the easiest, prettiest world by any means, and you got to. Cowboy has been fighting for a long time. He's definitely paid his dues, and I didn't have the time to pay the dues that he paid. You know, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, I not that I want to be fighting now. I wouldn't like. I like my life way better now that I'm not fighting. But
yeah,
I don't have that mental side of me either that Cowboy has. So I don't want to take that away from Cowboy. He has this thing where it's just like he's anyone, anywhere, anytime. He really is. You know, like a lot of people say it. I think he's the only one that does it.
Yeah, that's true. He backs it up he talks it and he backs it up.
Has he? I don't think he's ever pulled out of a fight, not one single time. And
he's a gangster.
And he and I've been friends with him for, I don't know, 2008. So like, we talk, I don't know about regularly, but like, once a month we're talking, and you know how it is, man. It's not like he's healthy all the time.
No.
You know?
And that's another thing. You can't be healthy all the time, not in fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you're getting ready for a big fight, I remember I was fighting for the WSOF belt with David Branch. And dude, my back was a mess getting ready for that fight. But it was like, all right, I'm not pulling out of this fight. And, my coaches, they stood with me, and he ended up beating me in a 5-round decision, and no excuses. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, you don't always fight healthy.
You never fight. If you fought healthy, you fucked up in camp.
That's pretty true.
Like as shitty as that is to say.
I don't remember ever fighting at 100%.
Yeah, no, as shitty as that is to say, because you have to fight to get ready to fight. Yeah. One fight is, and when I'm saying healthy is, dude, like last week you took a kick to the arm and your shoulder's bruised. Like that sucks. That like any other day you'd be like, if I had that on my shoulder today, I'd be like, God damn, man, what the fuck? My shoulder's killing me. But like you like, that's just your day. I think it's a constant headache. It's a constant it's a brutal thing, man. And like, so to go down the path of fighting, you better have a good goddamn reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
What?
And you get really, really tested.
Yeah.
Very tested. That's what I love about it.
What?
Honestly, my biggest thing with fighting was the test.
Yeah. I hated it. I hated every minute of it.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing it to why was I doing it? I was doing it to not like to try to prove to myself that I wasn't a coward because I knew that deep down inside I was. You know?
I got you. Okay.
And like so for me,
but I mean respect to admit that and respect to actually get out there and do it.
Yeah.
You know, you went through it.
Yeah, but that's why I was doing it, you know?
Yeah.
That's why, like, when I look back on my my career, it's just to say that I wasn't a coward, and because I mean at my baseline, it's something that I fight every fucking day, and it sucks. You know, and I don't say it sucks, but I love it. Like I love the fight. I love that fight because that fight is what makes me who I am.
Absolutely.
So like I'm great, but I wouldn't have had that without fighting. So I'm super grateful for it. Like I don't regret anything. Like there's not a single thing I regret about it. Like I don't regret that I'm not the champion or anything like that. So tell me about your life a little.
Did you ever get teased for being a heavyset kid?
Man, my life was my childhood as far as like social interaction was fucking terrible. I grew up a black Jew with Holocaust surviving grandparents in the mid 1980s in like real rural New Jersey. Like I'm sorry, you know, in the sticks where like, yeah, everyone knew each other, and my family, like I should have been in a city, like, you know, like, and it probably would have been better as far as like my childhood experience. But yeah, my childhood fucking sucked. Not as far as love from my parents or like needing anything, but as far as like the social piece of my experience. You know, I've talked about it before. Like when we moved to the neighborhood I moved to, like when we were building our house, it was like, you know, people spray painted it with swastikas in the process. Niggers go home, you know, all kinds. They spelled nigger wrong. Don't worry. Like, you know, all kinds of stuff, you know, like, so like that, it wasn't, yeah, that was my life. So, but again, that made me who I am today. So I don't wish it any other way. I don't even harbor any ill feelings towards those people who did that, because they, like, you know, that's a piece of my story.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, in its own way, in its own right. But so what happened with me when I was younger, I was actually
where did you grow up?
I lived in a place called Ahwatukee.
Oh, where's that?
And back then, they called it all white Tukey. Like, it's in Arizona.
Okay.
And I was the only black kid for a while.
Right.
So I had to deal with some of that. And my parents, you know, they were very loving parents. And I bring this up just so it doesn't confuse people with my storyline. My dad is technically my stepdad, but that's my dad.
Okay.
Because he was more of a blood dad than my blood dad ever was, you know. He took his own path and his own route, and I wish him the best in his journey. But when my dad came in, technically my stepdad came in and took over the spot, you know, he was an excellent man. And he taught me how to be a man. And he put me in place, like, he allowed me to take responsibility in my life. You know, he told me, you take responsibility, and whatever consequences, good or bad.
How old were you at this point? Like when your dad left and your stepdad came in?
So I was around 5. It was between 4 and 5.
Okay.
But I remember I was about 6 years old when he gave me the responsibility story. And it kind of held on and stuck with me. And that's where I'm just like, I'm taking responsibility for my life. And, you know, being teased, being picked on, being bullied, I took that as fire for me. And I got myself in a position to where no one can tell me what I can or can't do. And I do it with action as well. Like just saying that is one thing, but acting, taking real intense action on your life is another thing completely different. And I've learned to, like, I embrace and love competition. And that's kind of the reason that I fought was I love the competition so much. I love to be tested and seeing where I go, because how do you know where you're at if you don't have a litmus test? So you get to give yourself a litmus test.
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't mean to put too negative a spin on why, but when I really look at why I did it, it's cowardice. But I'm also a highly competitive person. So it's ingrained in me. Like my oldest child is just like me, super competitive. Like where he has sometimes like. He has like it's too competitive, but like it's this weird thing. Like I try not to beat it out of him because that drive can be very, very powerful.
Oh yeah, big time. That I love it. I try, and you're right. I try and feed it.
Hey bro, what do you got going on in the background? Hey Cliff, what do you got going on in the background? Because there's just a lot of noise.
Oh, there's a lot of noise?
But like I hear typing and like a bag and a TV.
No, I think that's noise somewhere else.
Really? Oh, okay. Let's just keep going.
Does it sound?
You're good.
Does it sound any better now?
Yeah, we're good. Now we're good.
Okay, cool. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that was weird. Here, the TV just came on. Let me turn this down real quick. This darn TV. Did my son just turn it back up? He did just turn it back up.
There we go. All right. Now it's going.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, sorry about that. Okay. So, what were we talking about?
Just like the drive to compete.
Yes. So, with my son, like I try and feed that. I want that to be as strong as it possibly can be. Because when you can get that drive, like that's what living is just pushing and testing yourself and enjoying the process while you're doing it. Not feeling like a failure, knowing that failure is part of the process, but testing yourself and see how far you can go. See where your limit is and then create a new one.
So I wonder about this a lot because I love failure. It's like, I don't know, I'm just really into it because it like it drives me. But is part of that a privilege? Like, and what I say is like, so yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm very privileged, like ridiculously privileged. First of all, I'm in America, right? So that's that's kind of the jackpot, right? Like, second of all, I had two parents that loved me and took care of me, and like weren't dead broke poor or addicted to drugs or anything like that. So my privilege is fucking high, like super, super high. So is that a privilege for me to be able to fail? Because like, the kid who has both parents addicted to drugs, because one of them's in jail, the other's a stepdad, like, or a stepmom, and like is unaware of where his next meal's going to come to when that child turns 18, like to tell that kid to fail a lot, like, man, I never in my life wondered where I was going to sleep or what I was going to eat or if I was going to be alive tomorrow, right? Like those kinds of decisions and consequences have never been on my radar. So, it's real easy for me to sit here and say, yeah, man, go fucking fail a lot. Like, and I'm not saying don't do this because like this is just, I don't know, some stupid shit I think about. Does that kid have the opportunity to fail a lot because, he fails too much? And God, I mean, you might as well sell crack cocaine.
So as a coach, I'll tell you one of the coolest things is having, it's more about finding perspective with the lens that you're given. And so if there is an individual who's had nothing but bad situations, you can take those bad situations and look at them as strength, because that could be their so-called failure moments. They're pain moments. Like all failure is just a pain, adversity. And so we don't get to dictate where our adversity comes from.
Sure.
But we get to see how we're going to use it.
Yeah, but we can look at statistics though too, right? And I'm just kind of devil's advocating you, like I don't disagree. But we can look at statistics a little bit, right? And see that, like, look, most people who have this experience end up fucking awful. And sure, the greatest of great also come out of those experiences. But what are you doing with your kid right now? Because I know what I'm not doing with my kid. I'm not making him think about food. Right? I'm not beating the fucking dog shit out of him, like physically, and hoping that he just becomes that somehow he gets through it and like becomes the greatest of the great. I'm not doing any of that. Yeah. I'm like creating this artificial struggle, as I assume you are, correct?
Absolutely. And I like where you're going with it. And I'll also say the problem with the traumas that you're talking about is it's not for it. It's if a dad or a mom are beating the crap out of their kid and selling crack and doing drugs and doing all of these negative things, they're not doing it for the betterment of the child. They're not saying like, all right, you're going to be a success because of all of this.
Right. Because we know where it ends up.
It from, yeah. They're doing it from patterns and habits. And so having those are just negative patterns and habits. So the kid ends up picking up the negative patterns and habits, most likely.
Right.
Not always that way.
Sure.
And so the ones that make it out of that, are the ones who really jump deep into their own faith of themselves. Even when their gut might tell them, what are you doing? You're nuts. Because our bodies just want to protect us.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you're given privilege, but given privilege and knowing what steps you have to take for success, you'll do the steps. But if you don't know the steps to success, one, you don't know the steps to success, you only know the steps to unsuccess. And then on top of it, knowing that makes you feel even more uneasy when you are around success. So you might be more inclined to avoid it. Then yeah, it's going to be one of those like, oh crap. And so sometimes with my clients personally, I like to sprint. I like to move people forward, but sometimes people aren't ready for that. They just need to start with a thought in the mind to believe in themselves because they've never been taught to believe in themselves.
How do you start that process? What do you do?
Listen to them and love them, empathize with them. Understand their struggle, because the second you actually love an individual, like some of our best lessons come from having intense hate and intense love. Like whenever I hear a story, it's, I love my mom so much I did blank, or I hated the fact that such and such did this, I did blank. And that's where usually people get their best stories. So I'm not going to hate on those people because they've had enough hate in their life. They need the love. They need to be empathized with. They need to be understood. They need to say, like, don't victimize yourself. But maybe there are victims out there. There have been people who have been victims. And eventually you get them to the point to where they're not a victim anymore. But you have to hear them out first and understand them first and let them digest. Let them digest this new reality, because when you're speaking to them in a different framework, in a different light, they've never seen it. So it's unique to them. And so that's the one thing, like, empathize and give them love. That's the one thing that you can give them to move them into, wow, I trust this person.
So you're talking about building trust first, really, right? You're just building a connection with one person. Person in 1 second at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, do you deal with a lot of addicts? Who are you? Like,
I've only had one specific drug addict I worked with.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, with my competitive nature, that's why I worked with him. Everyone was telling me to avoid, because he was dealing with a meth addiction.
Right.
And people were telling me to avoid that particular individual because meth is just too strong. It's the devil's drug. You don't want to touch that one.
Yeah, crystal's no good, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got a funny story real fast. So I'm gonna diverge. So yesterday I was at my Boulder location, and I was talking to some of the guys, and like half of my staff had never had fucking Popeye's chicken. You know, so I was like, "Are you guys serious?" So I was like, "Here, take the credit card, go, like go, just." Get a ton of fucking fried chicken for everyone. And we came back, and they came back, and then like somebody was in there, and he was like, "Yo, man, you got any Crystal?" And like everyone looked at him like, "What?" You know? And I was like, "Oh man, you fucking people. Crystal is hot sauce." You know, like, so if you're from the South and like most likely African American or African American, sorry, when somebody says, "Yo, you got Crystal," you're not thinking drugs. But when you're from like foo ass Boulder, Colorado, and somebody says you got Crystal, you think they're talking about crystal meth. You know, and like everyone was literally just looking at us like, "Nah, man, I ain't got any Crystal," you know. And you're like, and they were like, why would we want to do drugs right now? And we're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Hot sauce, you dumbasses," you know. Sorry, just a little break in the story, but yeah, I don't know. When you said meth, it made me think of that, so I went there. But so
all good. That's a pretty funny story,
right? Like, who has never had Popeye's fried chicken, man? Like, most of my staff had never had Popeye's. I was like, Jesus Christ, we got to fix this right away.
That's very surprising. Yeah, that's very surprising, but I'm sure they enjoyed it then.
Oh yeah, they fucking loved it because it's.
I know they loved it. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Popeye's chicken.
You cannot go wrong. You know, you can't get the other bullshit they have, like just the chicken, the fries, and the biscuit. The red beans and rice is okay too, but you know, other than that, yeah,
you can't go wrong with the biscuits there too. Yeah. Oh yeah, those biscuits are amazing.
Fucking bomb. All right, so back to your drug addict.
So what happened with him? I took on the case. I'm like, all right, you know what? I got to try this one. Worst case scenario, he does it again. He's been doing it for 16 years. So, all right. And he asked me for help. So I figured, why not try? And I've been working with him for a little over 8 months now. And I went through the process of, addiction is one of those things where there's a process that you have to go through to really get past it. But to say like, all right, you're never going to do it again. The odds of that are like saying if you're taking someone who is losing weight and you tell them now you're never going to eat wrong again because you have this new path, like that's not necessarily true. So I remember telling him like, look, if you use, just remember you can always get better. Like one day at a time. Just take life one day at a time. Get a little bit better than you did the last. And if you relapse, you relapse. And he ended up relapsing one time. And he told me, you know, he stopped himself from going into the deep end because he remembers me telling him that, saying like, look, it's not over. Because that's what people do sometimes is when they're so used to feeling like a failure, they just go, I always knew I was a failure. Instead of like, all right, this is part of the process. It's a process.
It's so crazy.
And it's not necessarily an easy one.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me with how people can't understand that mindset because we all have done it, right? Like we've all like gone on a diet or something and then like fucked up our diet and then said, one day, fucked up your diet and then been like, fuck it, you know? Fuck it.
Yeah.
How can you not understand? And like the chemical hook of a drug is way greater than the chemical hook of food.
1,200%.
You know, so like
compared to sex on a dopamine level is 100%.
Yeah. Like
meth is 1,200.
Yeah, exactly. So like, how can you not understand the mentality of an addict? Because every single one of us has done it. We have done it. So crucifying them what changed my whole opinion on this is I read this book called Chasing the Scream by Johan Hari, and just like how to deal with addicts in your life. And fuck, man, it changed my whole mind. It talked about what, just listen to listen to them and love them, and it's hard because you have to set boundaries too, right? Like you can't just let them like free for all with your life. So it's
very true.
It's a very difficult thing,
But see, the most important thing there you said was you read up on it.
Yeah.
And as human beings, our goal is to make each generation better than the last. You can't know what you don't know if you don't know it.
Yeah.
And so the more people read, the more people acknowledge, the more people are around other people. Like, being a coach and coaching hundreds of people has brought my empathy level up dramatically. And when we're talking about baseline, I already had a high level of empathy for people. It was already there.
Sure.
It was ingrained in me. And now I'm just at a new level because I'm around so many people.
You just have to go experience people. Like, man, last night I have a buddy who's a Muslim. Like, we've just become friends, and I realized that I've never been to a mosque, and it's Ramadan right now. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm going to go check this out. I just like, fuck. I went to the mosque with him last night, and it was really cool.
Awesome.
And I'm not Muslim, but I did everything I prayed, and I guess I didn't pray. I went through the motions.
Yeah.
But the up and the down and the on your knees, man, it was just a great experience. Because how can I try to empathize or understand a Muslim, or and their culture and what they do with their lives, if all I do is watch CNN? That's not
True.
Educating yourself, right?
Yeah.
Pick up a book and go spend some time with people.
Yeah. And I mean, even just having this discussion right now, it gives people room to think about it. Yeah, it opens them up.
That's why I do the podcast. I just do the podcast to help. Yeah. This isn't a money-making thing. This is I don't know. I like talking to people. Yeah. I think we need to talk to more people rather than listen to other people tell us what somebody else's experience was like. I want to hear what your experience was like.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I'm a big fan of hearing the story and understanding people's story
from the person. I don't want the cliff notes. I don't want the cliff notes that my senator who or my congressman or my president. Even when my president was somebody that I liked, I don't want I'm glad to hear their stories of their own history, but I don't want to hear them describing to me somebody else's history.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I
100% agree with that. And it's funny, even as we're talking, some of our story is similar, quite similar. Like you said, you were a fat kid. You weren't the most athletic. You had parents who loved you. You were picked on and teased and bullied. And I think even as a fighter, you didn't have to explain to me about loving fighting, because you have to love something about it in order to do it.
Sure.
It's insane. It's insane. You're literally a crazy person.
It's the dumbest thing you could do with your life.
Yeah. Just you're a little bit insane, and people love that insanity though. There's something about it that they love because we're the front runners, dude.
Dude, it's this, man. Everyone says everyone says they would make the walk to go fight Mike Tyson for $1 million. They wouldn't. That's why it's so exciting. They wouldn't.
They'd walk halfway through and then they go into their seat oh, you know what? I think I'm just gonna sit down.
If you just pulled someone out of the stands and said go do it, they probably go do it. But if I said, hey, look, on September the 1st, you're gonna make this walk. And you have to fight. You can't lay down. You have to fight Mike Tyson in his prime, right? And you're going to get ready for it. And you have to make this certain weight, right? And you have blah, 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 all of the stipulations, right?
You know what? So, all right, the biggest thing you said there, you have to fight. See, that's what makes fighting so hard. It would be easy to quit.
Yeah.
That's the easiest route to go. Is just being like, no, you have and that's what it is. That's why you do the training at 100%.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing the sparring. That's why you're tightening everything up, doing the mitt work, doing all those little tiny things.
Yeah. Or just for the layman person, man, you know what? If you make it 2 minutes, I'll pay you $1 million. If you don't make it 2 minutes, you're fucked. You get nothing.
Yeah.
And now if you don't like to put it in perspective of what that walk feels like, and if you don't make the walk, I'm going to kill you. Right. That's what the walk feels like. It's not because for us, it's our careers, it's not just go fight Mike Tyson for $1 million, take a jab, fall down. That's not what we're talking about here. So that whole process, man, no one's making the walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, you wouldn't make the walk if you had never done it before. You got to practice that shit. That walk is intense.
Yeah, it is.
And I wouldn't make other people's walks. I just wouldn't, because I don't know that intensity. Have some space for people in their lives in there.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very true. I think the cool thing about with what you're talking about with just fighting and talking about mindset and getting everything right, when you know the products to success, that's when you can become successful even faster in whatever new venture that you do.
Yeah, this is where we get back to the failing thing, right? I think you and I are probably good with failing because we know it's just part of this process. We've seen the rewards of it, so we have to show people the rewards of the failing, and how to move through them. That's the big test with failing, right? Is because most people don't it's so hard to understand that, it's so hard. I watch it with my kids, right? They don't understand failing because it's a learned thing. So teaching that is a learned so different. That's the most and I think that's one of the most important things we can teach our kids, because if they have that skill, then everything is possible, right? What do you want to do?
We talk about the failure and the grit behind it too. The being okay with the failure and still giving 100%.
Yeah. Because
I remember there was this one guy, me and him would do jujitsu together, and I would tap this guy out probably 6 or 7 times a round. Mm-hmm. But the one thing about him was he never, ever let up.
He's just in your face. He taps and he's in your face, right?
Yes.
That's the worst motherfucker. That's the worst motherfucker.
And I'm just this guy's going to be good. Yeah. You just know, that is what it takes.
Uh-huh.
That is what it takes, is keep coming, keep getting tapped, but get tapped at your 100%.
Yeah.
And now he's a badass.
Yeah.
He's a tough go. I'm damn.
Yeah, man. Those are the ones, man. Those are the ones where he's Jesus Christ. He's here again today. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's here again today. Fuck. All right. And every day it's a little harder. Every day, So and for me, that's why I love jiu-jitsu, because it teaches that. It can teach that grit, grappling. Grappling teaches that grit, I just think it teaches it the best.
I get goosebumps just talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Wrestlers are so dangerous because we know what it feels like to die. Mm-hmm. Our bodies, the things our coaches would take us through, especially at D1, they take us to extremes. Yeah. And then add another extreme to that extreme. You don't think you could go even further than where you went, and then they're going to take you even further.
Yeah. I'm doing
and
this.
And when you can do that, woo.
Yeah, I have this girl, she's my student. And that's the thing that she's doing the Worlds next week, and this is the biggest thing we worked on this camp for her. Not so much the technical aspect, but she could ease off the pedal sometimes and like back off because she'd be afraid of like getting too tired or I don't, the mind, like her mind was her weakest.
Yeah.
So like I've just been doing that and like a lot, not a lot, but you can only do it so much, right? You can't, but a couple times, 3 times through camp, and like I was super proud of her because like this last time that I really pushed her like mentally, she didn't tell me I can't do it. We've just been pushing that line and pushing that line and pushing that line of what she knew was possible. And one of the things that I tell her to try to help her is like, hey, we know that you're physically healthy. There's nothing wrong with you, so you'll pass out before you die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
I'll never forget, like, so this was in high school too for wrestling. And I did a wrestling camp. Right? Before I ever did the sport itself. And the wrestling camp, it's fun, it's light, it's just learning some techniques here and there. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot of fun.
Right.
And so I get into an actual like wrestling, competing for wrestling. And our coaches put it like we finish our drills and everything, and he puts us through the ringer afterwards. And I go to one of the guys, I'm like, what did we do wrong for him to do that to us? And he goes, Cliff, you've never conditioned before? Yeah. And I'm like, what? This is a thing we do regularly? He's like, yeah, we do this every day after practice. This is conditioning, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world. Like, I'm like, wow, crap.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, it was one of those things where I'm like, all right, well, this is what we do. We push to get better. Mm-hmm. And so, see, that was me within ignorance. I didn't know. I had no idea. And every time you go into a process, whether it's training for something or meeting a new person or having a conversation, you become a little less ignorant.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Like, you're just getting rid of ignorance. And that's all success is. It's letting go of the ignorance and knowing. So that's all it is.
So for me, man, like I have a very similar story, except I went the other way. I was playing basketball, it was like, I don't know, middle school or something. And, tryouts came and, same thing. I've done a bunch of camps. I could shoot a little bit. I could play a little bit basketball,
Mm-hmm.
And then for 2 hours, they just put us on the end line and we ran. And we just ran the whole time. And then I never went. I didn't go back the next day because I was like, man, this is stupid. This isn't basketball.
Yeah.
Right. But it was basketball. It was, and I missed it. So for me, like my baseline was there. So like when I say I had to beat the bitch out of me, like that, that is exactly where I went to all the time. I would always quit. So that kind of the opposite story, but like what we were talking about back in the beginning is you can train that out of a person, that doesn't have to be who you are. Nothing that you are right now has to be who you are tomorrow. I talk about, I did this thing called the dig with a lady that I'm friends with. And, it's about, she finds one word that describes you. And my word is power. So man, fuck, we all have the power to be amazing. I don't know we don't know what that is. I don't know what your amazing is, Clifford. You don't know what mine is, but fucking harness that shit, find it, and realize that we can do it. That 100%. I don't have to be that kid in 6th grade who was like, man, this isn't basketball and quits just because it was too hard.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's all mindset.
Even with what you're saying, and it's the coolest thing. And as a coach, like this is what I've loved so much, son. This is one thing.
Hey, dude, how old's your little guy?
He's almost 3.
He's almost 3.
He's gonna be 3 in August.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's loving life. Loving it.
What cartoon was he watching? Was that Puppy Dog Pals?
PJ Masks.
PJ Masks.
he loves his PJ Masks.
Yeah, man. My 3-year-old, when my kids were 3, they loved PJ Masks. So
yeah. And I know all of the songs now.
Oh yeah.
We listen to all of his cartoons and he just has a blast. They grow so fast though. Yeah, it's so cool. It's about enjoying the process.
For sure.
But Yeah, what I was saying was, as a coach, when you're training people and teaching them about themselves and their greatness and their story, it does come down to letting a person know, like, yeah, you got something special in you that no one else can have, because you have your specific perspective. And when you understand your specific perspective, your specific tools and who you are, I'll find him in a second, buddy. Your specific tools of who you are and what you are, that's when things start coming together.
For sure.
And that's when you start moving within your greatness instead of within your weakness. Because we do have both. And we have to openly admit that we have both.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing, though. For me, is like, you know, my greatness and my weakness, it's just the flip side of the same coin.
Yes. Yes. And so knowing that they're both there, see, that's where people can get in trouble, because they think it might be gone because they can't hear the voice anymore. Yeah. They don't hear the voice of weakness. So they stop doing the things that got rid of the voice in the first place.
Yeah, man. It's a good point. It's a great point. I had one of my fighters, Corey Sandhagen. I had him on the podcast, and he gave me a great trick for that. He's like, you got to give it a name. Name it. Like, in my weakness, I have a name for my weakness, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, I say hi. His name is Frank, you know? And I say hi to Frank, man. Like, here you are. Frank's going to hang out a little bit today. All right, cool. I guess it's me and Frank. But it like gets it out of my head a little, you know? It, like I can.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if it's stupid. I can talk to him, you know? I can.
No, I mean, if it works for you, that works for you. It's not stupid at all. You find, and not only will it work for you, it probably works for a lot of other people as well.
For sure, man. So it sounds like you got to go, man. I hear your kid in the background. I appreciate your time, Clifford. Where can people find you? Where can they see your stuff? Let them know.
So I have my website, www.cliffordstarks.com. So that's an easy member.
Athletes or non-athletes, or everybody?
You said what?
Athletes or everyone can reach out.
Everybody.
There. Okay.
You know, I coach. Yeah. One second, buddy. I coach everyone and 1 second, buddy. Okay, I hear you.
You're dealing with a sociopath, bro. You're fucked. You're dealing with a sociopath right now. You are fucked.
And then also they can email me at info@cliffordstarks.com. I have a YouTube channel. I have my Facebook Messenger. I'm pretty available, you know.
Instagram.
Now, coaching wise, it can be kind of tough to get in with me one-on-one specifically.
Sure.
But if your story touches me in a certain way, then I'd be willing to work with those.
Reach out, man. You got to take chances. Like, you know, like, man, I hit up Gary on the week.
Absolutely.
Every week I hit up like Gary V. I hit up Joe Rogan. I hit up I hit up Tony Robbins. But like, I want to talk to him. So like I'm in the same place that I was last week. Nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, with that. So
that's
maybe they'll see it one of these times, you know, and be like, God damn.
You know what? I actually respect certain people who are willing to email me and tell me their story. Like, I'll tell you, the guy who I work with the meth addiction, I would have never guessed that I was going to work with him.
Yeah.
But when he told me the story, I'm like, all right, let's give this a try.
Have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption?
I have.
Yeah, take the Shawshank Redemption approach, you know? Like, he wrote a fucking letter to the goddamn senator every week for 10 years, and they finally gave him a library. They were like, shut the fuck up, right? Shut the fuck up, man, here. So, like, maybe that will work. Who knows? The worst case thing is I'm where I am right now.
Yeah, that's it.
You know? So, all right, man.
That's what it comes down to.
Thanks for coming on, homie.
It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for having me on.
Keep in touch, man.
And you have a blessed day.
Yeah, man. Keep in touch.
Oh, definitely.
All right, man. Talk
Take
soon.
care, brother.
Yeah, bye. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel Fire. Don't forget to check me out on all of my social media at FireMarshal205. Again, at FireMarshal205. Go to my YouTube channel. Fire Marshal 01, that is, for YouTube, where you can follow. I'm making these videos 100K strong. That's the goal for the year. I want 100,000 strong listeners to the Gospel of Fire. So I'm trying to make a video a week so that you guys can follow along on my journey of how I go about my day, some things that I talk about, some things that I try to work on for myself. And then finally, don't forget my website, eliotmarshall.com, where you can get up to date with everything that has to do with me personally, the Gospel of Fire. You're going to find all about my book release, also called the Gospel of Fire, February 12th. It will be for sale on Amazon that whole week for 99 cents. So all that information at eliotmarshall.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks to my sponsors, Evo Labs and On It. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode.